Hello, my name is Jonathan Rockford. Currently, I live and work in my studio in the historic neighborhood of Sailboat Bend in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was born in Minnesota, but grew up all over the United States. We've lived in California, Nebraska, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois. So to keep it simple, I usually tell people that I'm from Chicago. In 2005, I received my BFA from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and in 2007, I completed the Master of Arts in Liberal Studies program at the University of Miami. The first art museum experience that I remember having, I went to two different museums and saw two very different kinds of work, and both kinds had a profound impact on me. I saw sculptures from the Baroque, and I saw contemporary art, particularly works by Klaus Oldenburg. And when I think back, uh, those influences still carry through in the work that I'm making today. The title of this show is Preserving the Void. In this exhibition, I'm working with a number of elements. I'm working with volume and space, and I'm working with the ideas of memory and time. Many of the pieces in this show are constructed from VHS tape. When I think about VHS cassette tape, I think about a continuous linear line, not just a line, but a timeline. But when we think about what's on those types of timelines, when we watch TV shows or movies, that timeline is often broken or interrupted. You might see flash forwards or flashbacks, close-ups and long shots. So when we think about this continuous line telling a story, we realize that TV and movies are partly so effective because they replicate, well, what happens inside of our mind. We don't necessarily experience time in a continuous line. So many of these sculptures have been created by a looping technique, a basic looping technique known as single stitch crochet. And because of the nature of the material, the mylar of the VHS tape, when it is looped and crumpled up tightly together, it actually holds a sculptural form fairly well. So what we're seeing here is this continuous line drawing turned into 3 dimensions. A 2-dimensional material, but also a 2-dimensional media being turned into a sculptural form. And these sculptural forms are interesting in and of themselves because they're generated to replicate or to capture the idea of a transient moment. So what we're seeing here is a lot of these forms are in motion or in a change of state. So we're seeing vapor, smoke, clouds, or those kinds of elements. And I think that works well when we're talking about juxtaposing the notions of memory and fixedness. Memory can be an elusive thing, and it's something that we used to think that if we revisited often by studying or remembering, practicing the act of remembering, that we would reinforce these memories. Yet some researchers are suggesting now that the more we consume a memory or go back and remember things, the less accurate it may become. So I think these notions are really interesting when we think about the changing media that we use to record things. So VHS tape 30 years ago was fairly new and a quite expensive media. Now it is pretty much obsolete, and you can get the tapes pretty much for free. And when I think about the found objects and juxtaposing these forms with found objects, it starts to become another layer of memory. Each of these items has its own experience associated with it, and each viewer will bring their own ideas attached to that as well. The idea of a frozen moment or of fixing the impermanent can be seen in the other pieces in this show that extend beyond the crocheted process. We see carved and flocked styrofoam this insulating material that takes on an eerie, heavily frosted scent. We also see a video that is derived from soap bubbles swirling down a drain, yet manipulated in such a way as to conjure up notions of pulsars and the cosmic scale of volumes and voids. Preserving the Void is on exhibition at Hardcore Art Contemporary Space this May 11th through July 6th, 2013, 72 Northwest 25th Street, Miami, Florida. More information can be found at hardcoreartmiami.com.